Today we're going to be reviewing The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 1 by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And this is the book. It's the Flower of Life symbol. There. Okay, so I hope the lighting didn't change too much. So as per usual, I'm going to read through the notes that I made during me reading the book. Everything that I say is from the book. None of it is my own information. It is all Drunvalo's. And there is one thing that I completely forgot to write down, but it is in the book. It's when he there was like I don't remember if he was the one that experienced it or something, but anyways, the point is there's this tribe called the Dogon tribe, and I forgot exactly where they're located, but they have like cave paintings dating back I think 700 to 800 years ago, and they had images of like a spaceship landing to Earth and dolphin looking creatures coming out of them and teaching them. I forgot what they taught them, but they also have in those cave drawings the rotation of Sirius A and Sirius B, and like, how is that even possible when you think about it? Like, there was no technology in that era like we have today. It's just like, how does one explain something like that? Like, how does an ancient tribe know the complete rotation and orbit of two stars? Like, they got it very, very, very close. I think it was actually identical to the actual rotation of Sirius A and Sirius B. Like logistically, like, how does that make sense? It just proves that there's more to what's going on than we think, and I think that's wonderful evidence that higher evolved life exists in this universe. And for those people especially that are like non-believers, and yeah, I just don't even want to get into that, but because I'm just so over it, honestly. Like, it's just like annoying at this point. I know everyone's entitled to their own beliefs, but still. So my friend Sierra had recommended me to read this book about like a year ago or a year and a half ago, and I finally got to it. I do plan on reading volume 2. This does combine a lot of science and like metaphysics. Yeah, it was cool to have like both of them, and there's like a lot of math involved as well, which it goes into like sacred geometry a lot, and I failed geometry, so it's like I didn't really want to read it, honestly, but I pushed myself to read it, even though it was not in my comfort zone, because I don't really like mathematics, because like for some reason my brain, I just don't comprehend a lot of it. Okay, so I'm just gonna get into it. Okay, so it's just gonna be like random things that I read that I liked from the book. And this video is going to be pretty short, just so you know. So everything is connected. There is only one reality and one God, but there are many, many ways that the one reality can be interpreted. There are an infinite ways to interpret it. So this makes me wonder then, aren't there different realities? I think that's what I wrote. So this makes me wonder then, aren't there different realities? And I think that's true, because I remember reading from the Dolores Cannon material that universes tend to overlap, which would be like realities overlapping as well. So it's like, yeah, there is different realities. And oh my gosh, I didn't even want to mention this video, but I think this is one explanation as to why some people really, 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 truly believe the Earth is flat, and some people really, 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 truly believe the Earth is a sphere, because the universes are overlapping, and the people from those universes are actually seeing one version of that reality in their reality. So it's like they're both right in their own way. And for the moment, that's what I believe. I don't know how true that is, but it would definitely give an explanation to that whole argument. And also, I will have to mention that Drunvalo, the author of this book, he basically like channels Thoth, the Egyptian god. I think he was an Egyptian god. But yeah, Thoth. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of Thoth. And so, yeah, so that's where he got a lot of this information from, and also his own angels. Oh, and I wanted to say, this is an old Zarashur, but I love it so much because it says the best version, and then right here on the arm it says keep growing. I think that's really cool. I've had this shirt for a long time. Okay, so you always have been and always will be. Spirit cannot die, and any other understanding is just an illusion. When UFOs disappear, they make a 90-degree turn, then disappear. The people on board these ships are not being carried through space like we are on airplanes. Spaceship passengers are psychically connected to the vehicle itself. When they're ready to go into another world, they go into meditation and link all aspects of themselves into oneness. Then they make either a 90-degree shift or two 45-degree shifts all at once in their minds and take the people and the entire ship into another dimension. Everything in this reality is sine wave or cosine. What makes one thing different from another is wavelength and pattern. This universe, and by that I mean all stars and atoms going infinitely out and infinitely in forever, has a base wavelength of about 7.23 centimeters. In a spiritual sense, this 7.23 centimeters wavelength is Om, which is the Hindu sound of the universe. As you go up into dimensional levels, the wavelength gets shorter and shorter with higher and higher energy. Going down the dimensional levels, wavelength gets longer and longer and lower with lower energy. There are 12 major dimensions and 132 minor dimensions, so 144 total. This is because there are 12 notes in an octave and 12 overtones between each note, and 12 times 12 is 144. But if you carry it further, between each overtone, you'll find another 12 overtones that replicate that whole pattern. So it goes down and up literally forever. Between each whole note or overtone universe, there is a void. The void between dimensions exists because God put these in a particular way for certain reasons. Okay, so I made this long story from the book short. The secret government that runs the world is supposedly from Mars, so they're Martians. And basically on Earth, they created a synthetic Merkaba, but forgot how to do it correctly because the last time they had done it was way in the past, and they really fucked shit up bad. So what happened was they accidentally ripped open the lower dimensional levels of Earth, which released a huge number of lower dimensional spirits into the Earth's higher dimensional planes. These spirits were forced into the planet, and since they had no bodies, they needed bodies to inhabit, so they basically possessed everybody in Atlantis. So no matter what, the Atlanteans couldn't stop from getting possessed. These spirits were earthlings like us, but very different, not coming from this dimensional level. And then here's another one. This is a picture. Okay, so a planetary grid is an etheric crystalline structure that envelops the planet and holds the consciousness of any one species of life. Yes, it does have an electromagnetic component associated with the third dimension, but it also has an appropriate higher dimensional component for each dimension. Science will eventually Discover that there's a grid for every single species in the world. There were originally 30 million grids around the Earth, but now there are about 13 to 15 million, and they're decreasing rapidly. If there are just 2 bugs on the planet, and they're just sitting somewhere in Iowa, they have a grid that stretches and around the entire planet, or they couldn't exist. It's just the nature of the game. Each of these grids has its own geometry and is unique. There's not another one just like it. So just as a species' body is unique, its point of view of interpreting the reality is also unique. The Christ consciousness grid holds the Christ consciousness for the planet, and if that grid isn't there, we cannot reach Christ consciousness. The grid was there during Atlantean times, though we were very young, and it was beginning to function at certain times during the precession of the equinoxes. They knew it would be placed into a passive state by the Martians' actions, so they decided to synthetically activate the Christ consciousness grid around the Earth. It would be a living grid, but it would be synthetically made, like creating a synthetic crystal from a living cell of a live crystal. Then at the right time, hopefully before we killed ourselves off, the new grid would be complete and we could ascend to our previous level once again. Okay, there's a big difference between dying and resurrection, but there's an even greater difference in ascension, which is now possible since the grid was completed in 1989. And if you remember, we talked about this in the DNA and the Sands of Time video. Ascension was highly unlikely until this grid was complete. In ascension, you don't die at all. There's no death process involved as we know it. Of course, it is true that you no longer are on Earth, and from that point of view, you die. But what happens is you simply become aware of your Merkaba one way or another, either remembering it on your own, being taught it, or however it happens to you. This means you become aware of your body as light. Then you're able to pass through the void totally consciously from the Earth side through the void to the higher dimensions, aware the whole time. In this way, you simply walk out of this life without going through the death process, which involves reconstructing your human body. When a person ascends, he or she simply disappears from this dimension and reappears in the next, passing through the void. Okay. I don't think that's necessary to know. Wait, I think... Oh, I think that's actually ties into the next page, actually. Okay. Ascension is now completely possible, and this book is one possible set of instructions on exactly how to accomplish this process. You personally might not pass through ascension, you might actually die, or go through resurrection. It doesn't make much difference at this point in the game of life on planet Earth, but because if you die in the normal manner, you'll go into the third overtone and into a holding pattern for a while. Then when the rest of the Earth cycles through this coming change, all people on that third overtone will also rise to the same dimensional level as those who resurrected or ascended. Even the Bible refers to this, saying that at this time the dead will rise. There's no such thing as death, there are just different states of being. It's a little like water, which can be a liquid, a solid, or a gas, but it is still water. Right now, very few human reincarnations are occurring on Earth, except under certain conditions. This is probably your last life. This is it. Of course, there are exceptions to almost all rules, so there may be a few on this Earth who have decided to reincarnate, but time is running out. If we make it to the end of this century, I'll be amazed. I seriously doubt if the third dimension will still be available for human life by that time. Only God knows for certain. Where are the people coming from who are being born on Earth today? Not from here. Okay. So immortality has nothing to do with living in the same body forever. You're going to live forever anyway. You have always been a life What? You have always been alive and you always will be alive. I think it means alive, and I just got a typo. You've always been alive and you always will be, but you might not be conscious during all that time. The definition from our point of view has to do with memory. When you become immortal, you reach the point where your memory remains intact from then on. In other words, you're conscious from then on with no unconsciousness coming in. It means you stay in the body as long as you want to, and when you want to leave it, you can leave. Do you have to stay in a single body forever? Would be a jail or trap, because it means you couldn't leave. There might be a reason for leaving the body, and you will eventually find that you want to go beyond wherever you are. This is the definition of eternal life. Simply put, you have continuous, unbroken memory. The Great Pyramid's primary purpose beyond anything else is to take someone from our level of consciousness into the next level. There are lots of other reasons why it's in existence, but ascension and resurrection are that. The Great Pyramid's primary purpose beyond anything else is to take someone from our level of consciousness into the next level. There are lots of other reasons why it's in existence, but ascension and resurrection are the absolute purpose. Okay, so atoms are also made up of spheres. If you look at the hydrogen atom, the proton is compacted in the center and the electron is way out there orbiting the proton. If the proton were the size of a golf ball, the electron would be about a football field away, and that electron is moving real fast. I remember that when I was studying physics, I could not believe that the little electron, which is a pinpoint you cannot even see, is moving around and around in some microscopic space at 9/10 the speed of light. This means that the electron travels around the proton about 170,000 miles every second around something that you can't even see. My mind was totally boggled. I went home and lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling for a long time. This was just inconceivable to me. That was funny. Okay, so here's a photo of Metatron's cube in case you guys don't know what it is or haven't seen it. Okay, so Metatron's cube contains every shape that exists in the universe God has created, and those shapes are the building blocks of all physical matter. And so I'm just gonna end it with this. I know, short video, honestly, but it's because the reason is because there's a lot of stuff about Egypt. There's a lot of stuff about sacred geometry. That's literally like the second half of the book. And I feel like I can't really talk about stuff that I don't fully understand. I do understand the sacred geometry part of it, and this is what I understood from it. Let me just say it, and I'm just gonna end the video. Okay, so here it is. In summation, what I understood is that this is about the sacred geometry part, because it talks about like Fibonacci and the golden spiral. Okay, I understood that nothing is coincidental and nothing is accidental. Everything, to the smallest conceivable degree, is intentionally created. And with that, I hope you all have an amazing day and an amazing night. I know this is probably one of like my shortest videos, but I just had to mention some of the stuff that I learned from that book, because that book I know has to be one of one that's like on everyone's list, because it talks a lot about our hidden history. And love and light to everyone.